before you guys get into anything serious you're doing, I'm going to try to give you a very high-level overview of some of the things that Joe Hamill just mentioned. But Doc, I think you made a statement, which is the government doesn't produce anything. That was a very modest statement. You guys produce massive amounts of regulatory documents that are almost impossible to comply with. You're very good at it, and I think the intention of almost every one of them is to ensure safety, et cetera. But the unintended consequence is the more advanced the technology is, the less most of the regulations apply to it, and the harder it is to get the regulators to embrace it. And I don't say that just to pick on you. I'm an equal opportunity offender. I pick on everybody. But I think this crowd, if you're really trying to solve the problem of supply chain issues, you got to start thinking about the best way to solve the problem is to prevent it in the first place. That's what Einstein said. Smart people solve problems, geniuses prevent them. The other thing is the best supply chain is the one with the fewest links, the shortest chain, the easiest one to go from your problem to the point of care solution. And there's a whole lot of opportunities now created by advancing technologies to do that, but they need to be embraced. I'm going to show you, I wish I could, hold on, this thing just went away on me. Oh, don't do this to me. We're done. I have a day job, DECA, with about 1,000 engineers. We work on all sorts of cool stuff. We have Army that Joe talked about. We only started 7 or 8 years ago with a grant of about $80 million from the Department of Defense. That's why we called it Army, but it's ARMI, Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute, and it's there really, again, to more than fix the problems of supply chain, but to eliminate those problems by directly manufacturing cells, tissues, and organs. I could spend hours talking about the now 200 members of Army and what they do, but I'm going to use only one example that I think is closer to the spirit here. I could talk all day long about DECA and the projects we've been working on for decades. I could talk about FIRST, and that's not irrelevant to this crowd because almost every problem that we face these days is going to require an army of technically competent people on both sides, people on the government side that appreciate, understand, and are comfortable with new technologies, and people to create, develop, and administer them. And the hardest component that we have to come by these days is a workforce of truly competent technical people. And I was worried about that 35 years ago when I wanted to start more kids down a path to careers in technology. And I just came in yesterday where I was in Houston for the 2024 championship of FIRST Robotics. We had over 50,000 people in Houston. It was an incredible event, over 1,000 teams out of the 82,000 teams that competed around the country this year. And I'm happy to tell you the government was the largest single sponsor of teams. The DoD has over 1,000 teams. NASA has over 250 teams, Department of Energy, and they're all embracing creating this army of technologists. I wish, again, I could spend hours talking about FIRST, but I'm not. So what I'm going to do is tell you that I'm not going to talk about all of these projects at DECA, but I'm showing them because one of the themes at DECA is that we just keep leveraging technologies that we make. We're mostly systems integrators. We don't do basic research. But once there's a technology out there, we'll incorporate it in something and then realize that we can probably use it to get other things going. As an example, we make about 80%, or our partner, Baxter, supplies about 80% of the world's peritoneal dialysis machine off our stuff. But that's only less than 10% of the people that need dialysis. End-stage renal failure is a terrible situation. So we realized we could make a home hemodialysis machine. Talk about getting rid of supply chain problems. Put it in their home, let them do it themselves. But in the home, you don't have access to medical grade water. For peritoneal dialysis, you only need a couple of liters a night in an IV bag. For peritoneal dialysis, you can ship the bags. For hemodialysis, you need 100 liters or more. 200 liters is ideal of U.S. pharmacopoeia water per day. And if you're at home, you better be able to make it out of your tap water. So the machine on top there is our dialysis machine. We're waiting for an FDA approval on it. The machine that it's sitting on top of makes the water. A couple of years ago, there was this little problem, COVID, and it started stressing almost all the supplies of what used to be considered commodities, like IV solution. Again, Joe is not a bashful guy, and he said, how fast can you give us a system that'll make bags of IV solution? And we realized if we take the dialysis machine off the top of that thing and build it into a slightly different cabinet, we could take the sterile water and get most of the solution to a bag of IV solution. The trouble is you can't inject sterile water. It needs to have about 33 parts per million of say. You need 0.9 normal saline. Hey, why don't we add a little sugar and we'll give you D5W or Ringer's lactate? Who knows? Well, again, I'd like to leverage all the technology we've made over the years. You might wonder, what the hell is this thing doing here? Well, it turns out that the Coca-Cola Company, I realized, could be a great partner, largest sponsor of sporting events in the world, to First. I convinced their CEO to join the board of First and help us out, but he said, I need a way to make every one of our 123 or so SKUs in real time in the field in a vending machine. I'd rather do it that way than the bottles and cans, and he knows we do high precision mixing, measuring, compounding drugs. So we told him we would do that for him in return for a couple of things. Join First and help us put our water machine all over the world, because Coke has the better footprint worldwide in every country in the world than any medical company you could imagine. So we did it. We made it. We built them probably more than, at this point, 50,000 of these machines. But then we said to another great friend of ours, Fred Smith and FedEx, we took that water machine and literally, before we even put it in the big cabinet, we just put it in bright red little cabinets, because Coke's into bright red. And when Dominica wiped out an island, the only thing, you couldn't fly there to keep people going while they try to rebuild. You could, a shoebox full of drugs will solve your problem for a month, but the amount of IV solution you'd need, you couldn't possibly you couldn't ship it. So I got a call between you guys and FEMA, and hey, do you have any of those water machines that we were making for Coke? And they'd put them in, Ghana, South Africa. I called Fred Smith, and within 24 hours, we had 3 of those machines in place, producing each one of those machines about 1,000 liters of water per day, and we kept that place going until they rebuilt their infrastructure. It proved that that system worked, and we were making potable water. It's actually sterile, but potable water at point of need. We took that machine, then we took the technology we used, again, to make the Coke machine, because compounding is compounding, cherry Coke or D5W. So we put it in a cabinet, we put it on a truck, we sent it down here, we put it on the veranda of HHS, and every 81 seconds we were popping out a bag of IV solution. The then secretary of HHS and the head of the FDA are standing there on their veranda watching these things come out. To his credit, the head of the secretary of HHS turned to the head of the FDA at the time and said, okay, how are we going to get this thing approved? And to his credit, he looked like a deer in the headlights and said, we don't know. Is it a device? Is it industrial equipment? Is it a combination device? It's only making water, but if you're injecting it, it's a drug. This machine with vapor compression distillers and all sorts of robotics should be reviewed by, I think, CDRH, but the FDA thinks it's CDER, and so far, we're not sure what's going to happen. We call it now Caspian. We realized it shouldn't look like the cabinet we just showed you. I think we have here a video. I hope it's going to play. Of what it could look like. This is the inside of an actual model we've made. We got a very nice contract from you guys in the government to do this now. And inside that cabinet, we make a miniature space that's actually sterile. We fill the bags, which are coming in cartridges not much bigger than a small suitcase, and it's 100 bags per cartridge. It fills them from any tap water that happens to be available or at a forward operating base in a clinic, any way you want. And the neat thing about it is every single bag it makes, we're doing 100% data collection on this thing. So instead of doing the 50-year-old model of batch sampling and hoping that you got it right, you're going to see in a second that this thing has a complete dashboard. Every single bag that gets made, we will know where it got made, when it got made, what's in it, all the data about it. And if you're sitting at some office here in Washington and you want to know wherever the crisis might be, what every machine is doing, how much it's producing, where it is, that's going to happen in real time. Then out of the bottom of the machine, you take your product. The bags get labeled in real time in the machine, and off you go. And I'd say that by far the most difficult problem that remains is not the technology. We know how to do robotics. We built that vapor compression distiller. We know how to do all the sealing. The biggest problem we have is what is the regulatory pathway so that just like that Coke machine can sit anywhere and you can make what you want, that Caspian machine should be sitting in hospitals, clinics, forward operating bases. You guys should have them in inventory. FEMA should have them. And anyway, I'm going to go through another one that Joe was not bashful about. And I know we have people here from Becton Dickinson. And everybody knows them as the guys that make what seems to be the infinite supply of syringes and needles. They're good partners of ours. We love the folks at BD. But even their chairman, their CEO, Tom Pullen, would tell you if you called him today and said, there's another wave of COVID coming, we need 8 billion polypropylene syringes. We need 8 billion 25-gauge stainless steel needles. Yeah. Oh, then I need an army of clinicians, legal and competent to administer vaccine. It's hard. Not to mention, what do you do with all those waste products? Hypodermic needles, polypropylene syringes, et cetera. So at the beginning of COVID, one thing we were told by the clinical community is that it has been known for decades that if you could get a vaccine directly into the intradermal space where you have 100,000 times higher density of dendritic cells than any other organ in your body, if you could get your vaccine directly into the skin, not through the skin, not subcutaneous, not IV, not intramuscular, if you could get your dose of vaccine into the skin, you'd need less than 1/10 of the amount to get the same biological response. If it didn't go deep in, you eliminate the side effects and the pain. You eliminate, if you could make it self-administerable, you could eliminate the need for a massive number of clinicians, especially in the developing world, don't exist. You would eliminate the need for the syringes and the needles. So we knew of a company in Israel that 20 years ago demonstrated using semiconductor technology, they could make microneedles. But for those of you that don't remember Pavoy's equation, the flow, the impedance to flow through a circular cross-section varies as the fourth power of the diameter, inversely as the fourth power. So tiny, tiny needles would require a very long time to push even that tiny amount. 1/10 of a typical 1 cc dose of a vaccine is 1/10 of a cc, 100 microliters. It's too hard to do. And the technique of different kinds of skin, kids' skin, old skin, women's skin, men's skin, Asian, African American, Latin. So we said they solved the tough part of the problem. They realized you could make microneedles 500 millionths of an inch long with a full shape of a hypodermic needle. They realized you could do all of this technology part, and the clinicians have known for decades that if you could reliably and simply get it there, you'd have all these other advantages. But how do you do it? And we realized if we could take those microneedles, figure out how to put a reservoir on the back side of it produce that stuff at high volume. There's 75,000, a 6-inch semiconductor wafer. I could spend hours showing you what we did to make the semiconductor wafers, to dice them, to assemble them. Then we needed a small, high pressure compared to skin, like 2 psi, but super low pressure compared to a syringe, way to just slowly push this small amount of fluid into the skin. So we started a project to do that. And introducing, which of course it's not introducible now because the FDA takes the position that if we start out with a drug in there, it's a combination device. Each one would have to go through CDER and another group. If we make it just a standalone one, every drug that we've seen is already labeled for intramuscular or subcutaneous. The position is going to be, until somebody does the clinical to prove what everybody already knows, intradermal is simpler, safer, more effective. But it's not on the label copy. These are pictures of what the actual needles look like. This is a super magnified view of those needles and the little pouch that we designed for the back end of it. We assemble the whole thing, and the reason we call it Daisy, imagine those petals have an adhesive under them, Band-Aid. If you push down on the top of that thing, they spread out. Well, they're stuck to your skin when you first put it down, so as they spread out, they stretch your skin like a drum head. By the time they stretch it to become completely flat, we've normalized no matter what skin type you have, and then when you finally push down that top piece, it releases a couple of pounds of pressure from a spring that exerts a constant force pressure on the top side of that small device to express the fluid through it into the patient. It's very easy to self-administer. The needles are so short and so sharp you can't even feel them. And here's a hokey little homemade video we did. I hope the FDA isn't watching because we didn't do a approved clinical trial here. I just took the old engineers I have, the young engineers I have, men, women, Asian Americans, African Americans, and we inoculated them all. Don't worry, they're now protected by anything that 0.9 normal saline will protect you from. The only reason that we show the use of that good technique is maybe they had, sunscreen on, and we wanted to make sure the Band-Aid sticks. We did get the FDA to agree that those needles don't represent biohazard. Now you're going to see a bunch of my people just popping it on. You literally can't feel it. You wait 2 minutes. You pop the thing off, and docs call this, what you see there, a bleb, which shows that the fluid went into but not through the skin. There's our blebs. We got lots of blebs. We made this thing. We've tooled it up. We can manufacture small quantities of these things right now. But we need to incentivize the pharmaceutical guys to want to help us to get it done. But when they know that they can, the win once this works is they get to sell 1/10 the amount of drug. And if they're reimbursed per cc, not per dose, there's a pretty perverse incentive there. As I said, I'm an equal opportunity offender. We packaged some up. We sterilized them. The only thing now missing is people with the vision, courage, imagination, incentive to actually make the things go. We realized that let's not start with big pharma preloading them. We got another group from the Department of Defense that said, hey, in the field, we can fill these things. But, sometimes it's rough space, so let's prove that we can do it at minus 40 degrees. We took them and added a septum to the side so that you can manually take a syringe, take whatever is biologic out of whatever vial it's in, inject it into this thing to fill its reservoir, and then put it into the patient and know that you got a painless intradermal delivery. And since it didn't come preloaded, maybe we'll avoid having to deal with the 2-year shelf life you'd otherwise need for biocompatibility and extractables, leachables, and all the other stuff. So we then said, halfway in between is, what if we made a countertop device so you could take your vial and either one by one with a syringe fill it, or watch this. We made a little desktop machine. We showed them that. You could take, let's say, a couple of dozen of these things. We built a little motorized device that will empty the vial, using obviously blue water there, into a single syringe. It then pumps it down, and that manifold allows it, as you can see, one by one, it fills all of them in that tray, which could happen in a pharmacy or in one of your forward operating bases, and off you go. Okay, so we'll stop right here.